illustrious guest on the air. Welcome to the airwaves of WRFG, Dr. Josef ben-Jochannan. How have you been, sir?
Well, I've been kind of holding it together between here on this side of the Atlantic and in Egypt on the other side.
Yes, sir.
The Atlantic and the Mediterranean.
Well, sir, I just wanted to say that we're blessed to have you here in Atlanta, and we recognize that you are one of our giants, one of our illustrious scholars, and we want to pay homage. And with that, sir, I would like permission to begin to speak from my elder.
Yes, you have that, sir.
Thank you, sir, indeed. Now, Dr. Ben, one of your topic this evening at Morehouse campus was one topic that I wanted to talk about this evening. That is the African origin of Western religion, or the African origins of religions that are practiced in the West is probably how we should say it.
Yes.
But so many things you talked about this evening, and one of the listeners out there who was at the program tonight called and asked me to ask of you this particular question. So we'll start with this, and then I want to get your opinion of the current events in the so-called Middle East, which I prefer to say is the eastern part of Africa. Sister asked me to ask you, Dr. Ben, to give a brief synopsis of who Jesus Christ really was, and as opposed to who the white folks say he is today. Who was Jesus Christ in essence?
Well, if you're talking about Jesus Christ, the mythological figure, you're talking about Jesus Christ, the human personality, or the original person who became the deity in Egypt that was copied for a figure coming out of Rome. A multiplicity of Jesus Christ. There is a book called The 15 Crucified Saviors that deal with 15 Jesus Christs. The one that most of us speak about is strictly today the Romanized version of Egypt's Osiris. Jesus Christ is supposed to have been born. The physical impossibility of Jesus being a person is that he's born without the benefit of a mother. And yet he's born by the biological process. At least we have to assume there was a midwife that assisted Mary, and not necessarily so she could have assisted herself, because that's been done, it's done quite by the hundreds of thousands years. There is no historical Jesus as such, no one individual. There are a number of people who have claimed that they had contact with a historical Jesus. The one of 1991 years, that's the one I assume that you're talking to, ago. There's all kinds of people who claim to have had contact or know people, and then there are just as many disclaimers. So Jesus exists only in the minds of Christians or people who follow the philosophy of Jesus. Now, the story of Jesus isn't unique, because the story of Horus is 4,000 years older and typical. For instance, Isis became pregnant by an immaculate conception 4,000 years before Mary became pregnant by immaculate conception. But entering between these two, Hatshepsut's mother had her by an immaculate conception and a virgin birth. So you could see that a number of people is said to have been born the same way Mary is supposed to have had Jesus. So there is no real proof of a Jesus.
Well, I hope that answers our caller's question. Now, I wanted to again, as I said earlier, focus in a little bit on what's happening now, but using an ancient barometer, using an ancient yardstick, if you will, to judge what's happening today. Now, let's start with the country of Iran. Translated, I understand it means the land of the Aryan.
Yes.
Now, could we elaborate on that? Why would the Iranians declare declare themselves the land of the Aryans? I thought they were supposed to be Arabs.
No, the Iranians are Aryans, and a certain portion of India is the land of the Aryan people. And of course, to talk about it as, for instance, they speak of the peacock throne, the continuation of this throne of Aryan people. And then again, you got to say where did the Aryan people come from? These are names that individuals have given, either the people there or the different colonial power have placed upon these local people. But out of that milieu of Asian cultures come the culture of the name of Iran. There are people from the hill. They are hill or mountain people who came down from this mountain area down to the Indian Ocean, and that and the various waterways there. What was previously called the Persian Gulf and so forth. And so the Parsis, for example, would consider themselves the true Iranian, the Parsi religion. But the Iranians who have adopted Islam, there's a lot of argument as to whether or not they're true Iranians.
Now, also in the land of Iraq was the ancient kingdom of Babylon. Let's talk about Babylon and ancient Babylon.
There's an assumption that there was a place named Babylon there. There's not the physical evidence to warrant what they're talking about, but let us make the assumption, because the European needs a country other than Egypt now to make their original stance. Since they tried Egypt and could not sustain this, and the evidence is preponderance now to show that there is no such thing as a European Egypt, they now have to run to go back and claim Babylon and to claim Sumna. And in either case, they don't have artifacts to support the longevity of those places. Now, I'm sure that would be followed by, in reference to what's going on in the area. Well, we have to look at that even more historically, because frankly, we're looking at a piece of the old Ottoman Empire. That's just what it is, that we can support in data. And the breaking up of the Ottoman Empire when Europe decided to cut it up by warfare, and did cut it up. So Iraq is a creation of the British and the French equally as much as Kuwait was a creation of both of these two entities.
Mm-hmm. Now, part of your lecture tonight dealt with the, again, African origins of religion, and we're talking specifically about Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. Let's elaborate, if you will, Dr. Ben, on exactly that. How has the African origin of these particular religions been distorted historically by the Europeans and others as to their genesis? And why? Why rewrite history to take the religion out of Africa where it once began?
To enslave someone, you can't tell them the truth about themselves. You can't tell the African he was great and simultaneously tell him he's ignorant, he's indolent, he never done anything, that you came and learned from him. How could you say in the classroom, we're now going to discuss Greece. The Greeks got their civilization from the African, whether it be the Egyptians, the Ethiopians, the Nubians, or whoever. You can't teach that. Therefore, you must teach that the Greeks were something important, that they had a thing called democracy, and all these kinds of things, which in fact is a lie. Now, you say, let us support it. Before, no one, not a single professor anywhere in the world could substantiate any Greek society of any substance prior to 1000 BC. And I'm being generous. They must go back. What we were taught in school, we were taught that history of a country starts when there's writing in that country, right? Well, the Greeks didn't have any writing until Homer published his Iliad and Odyssey. Okay? And Homer himself established, no doubt, by saying the gods Zeus, Apollo, and others came from Ethiopia. That the most important gods the Greeks got came from. Let us go back further behind, before even the Greeks. The first time we had to hear of a Jew, you can't have Judaism without the first Jew. You can't have Christianity without Christ. All right. Abraham, the first Hebrew Jew, Israel, whatever name, I'm not going to be fuss about that, because everyone will me. He wasn't born until around 1700 at best, before the Common Era. At that time, the Africans of the Nile are in the 13th dynastic period. The irony is, you could start here and say, the whole thing is based on a puddle of lie. You could ask the question, how could this be? For instance, Abraham is associated with the building of the pyramids too. By the time his children, progenies, come down to Moses, they were forced to build pyramids out of brick and straw. Pure lie. I mean, I've been and see every one of the pyramids that they got in Egypt. None make out of brick and straw. They make out of, especially the one that most Hebrews or Jews like to talk about, the one, many of them at Giza. The one of Khufu, the largest of all, 48 stories by 2.5 blocks by 2.5 blocks. You can see why they'd like to claim that. Well, the pyramid era started with the 3rd dynasty. That was the first pyramid, the pyramid of Saqqara. It ended with the ending of the 12th and the beginning of the 13th dynasty. Abraham wasn't born until around the last part of the 13th dynasty. So therefore, how the Jews going to build pyramids before they're born? Let us take it again. Genesis, the making of man. The Africans have a story thousands of years old. Kunum, God Kunum, K-H-N-U-M, making man and his potter's wheel out of clay. The Jews copied everything about the making of man except one thing: they leave out the potter's wheel to make it look like it's a different making of man. The whole story. We could go further than that. There's a resurrection story which the Jews have. The ancient Egyptians speak of the resurrection of Osiris long before there was the first Jew. And the resurrection has nothing to do with going to heaven or any place like that, but it has to do with the penis of Osiris, which had been cut off, coming back and then erected from its dead stage. I don't think we should have any problem about penis resurrecting. I mean, we all experience that if we're men, and experienced women know what a resurrected penis is. That's about the only thing that got resurrected. Then you come to the moral laws. Thou shalt not kill, all that. Well, Moses, who's supposed to get the law from God, thou shalt not kill, was persecuted by the Pharaoh for killing 40 years before he reached Mount Sinai. Aaron, Moses' brother, was charged with stealing from the treasury before he got there with his brother. A nice family. One of the sons steal, and what was Miriam's job? I better check that. I better check. Find out what she did for a living at night. Because the son, I mean, this is a good family. I'm sure you know too proud of Mr. Moses moved in there with his family. I wouldn't feel good living in the family. I tie down every damn thing I do. You got to deal with that based upon their own. Now, this is not the Egyptian writing. This is their own writing. They didn't write before the Sanhedrin, and that didn't produce any material until 700 BC. So you could also see where all these things are coming up. Now, when we go back to the Book of the Dead, for example, as I always said, the Book of the Coming Forth by Day and Night, it has a longevity more than 4,100 years. It's revised, meaning at least 3,000 years older than the Jewish Bible. And the Jewish Bible, many of us don't know that the first Jewish Bible was not the Old Testament or the Torah. It was the Kabbalah. And that, if you want to see a piece of wild writing and madness, you read the Kabbalah.
So let's talk about some of the modern Jews, the Jews that we have come to associate today. I'm talking about the European Jews,
Ashkenazi
and Sephardic, and all of that. When did European Jews or Europeans, when did they first come to embrace the known as Judaism, and why?
I think Arthur Kutzer, who died not too long ago, a few years ago, 1 or 2 or 3 years ago, wrote the best book on the subject, and it's called The 13th Tribe. There's a book by Kautsky, Are the Jews a Race? And you could get some tidbits about this from another book called Bible Myths, the story of Genesis, written by Raphael Patai and Graves. Robert Graves and Raphael Patai. And they would give you enough information in those 2 books, plus extensive bibliography on the subject, so that the Jews, it is roughly stated, were a group of people called Khazars. And they were caught between the fight with the Ottoman Turks and some people calling themselves Christians, and they wanted to get caught in it. So they joined up with this little group of Khazars who are people that met in contact with a small group of people coming out of the area practicing what is today called Judaism. They joined in with these people so that they were protected. The Christians fought, the Muslim fought the Christians, while this little handful of group would associate with the dinner title was saved and spared. And then out of that they developed what is called Judaism, created new rules, knew everything for themselves, and decided that they will be the new Jews.
In case you're just joining us, we're speaking with Brother Dr. Josef ben-Jochannan, a renowned Egyptologist, author, lecturer, and all-around griot. We are blessed to have Brother in our midst. My name is Bomani Bakari, and of course the program is indeed Round Midnight. You have to call somebody up. We don't have Dr. Ben, but for so long. It's 11:30 in Atlanta, and you ought to give somebody a call now. Dr. Ben, let me put you on the spot. Do you feel up to taking some phone calls this evening? Okay, so we're going to open up the phones a little bit later on, so please stand by for that. Now, I wanted to ask, let's open up this a can of worms, if you will. Jumping back and forth between religions. Islam, one of the tenets about Islam that I don't particularly appreciate is the subjugation of women. And could you elaborate on the Arab concept as opposed to the African concept of Islam, and why the subjugation of women is prevalent in some Islamic cultures and religion and so forth?
You see, if we would only understand religion is the deification of a culture, then we understand why certain religion requests certain behavior. Religion is the deification of Arab culture. The mere fact that Arab culture adopted prophets from other religions, like Abraham all the way to Moses and Jesus, is that it wanted to extend its coverage, its land coverage. Why? Why would a woman be mistreated, spoken so bad of in the Quran? Because it was a big part of the behavior of the priest. they said a woman in Quran should be spanked, should be beaten, even get a whipping, even when she didn't do anything. On occasion you must do this, because she's but a child in the house. Well, do you think that just come out the sky? It didn't come out the sky in the Quran. It was part of the culture. And it had to go, because what the religion again is the deification. You make your culture represent God, because your culture, and it became sacred. And just as Christianity have laws, like the whole virgin impact thing, it was the aberrations of that the Europeans were talking about. He had become so scared of his daughter that he had to make laws repressing her. And Judaism had the same thing. The man was afraid of his woman, and he had to make restrictive laws limiting her operation. But the original premise in terms of Islam, it was, when you understand that you're talking about sand all day long, all night long, you're talking about sand, camel, water, a water hole. That's what you're talking about. Now, anything that the God is going to do is conditioned to these three things, right? Right now, water is a big problem. They do desalination plants. They bust out and you got trouble. The water was equally as bad. It didn't get better. It was worse. They had no desalination plant. And things got so bad at times that men are known to have had to drink the camel urine to get water for themselves. Or the camel, kill the camel to stay alive and drink the blood. Or that's extreme, but it happened. But the culture, you got to reflect that. So you're talking about a God who would not give many privileges to women by virtue of the culture. That's, a woman had to wear a long dress, because when the sun started blowing around, you couldn't conceive of an Islamic woman wearing a mini skirt in all the sand and stooping down. The sand would be pulling her underwear, man. Man, what are you talking about? And wearing a lower neck breast. Man, hell, by the time you look for her, she looked like a sand dune. The man had to wear a head wrap around his ear and the sand. If he didn't wear it, man. But we don't do anything. What we do is, anybody get up in a pulpit, tell us anything, we're ready to do what? Because we fail to think. We don't want to think, and that's our downfall. If you don't think for yourself, somebody will think for you.
Right. Now, let's turn our attention to some other civilizations, the Indus Valley civilization and the Dalits, and their persecution by the Hindus. Let's talk about that and how, well, the original so-called Indians in India were in fact African people, as you and your esteemed colleague, Dr. John Henry Clark, have been fond of saying, that Africa is the seed, or the seed people of the planet, if you will. Let's talk about the Indus Valley civilizations and the Dalits and the Hindus, and why there is continued subjugation of those Africans in India.
Well, you've got to realize that the ones that we're talking about in India, whether we call them the
untouchables, sir?
Yes, but or the Dravidians.
Or the Dravidians, yes.
Or the other name that they use for them in the Bhagavad Gita. The funny thing is that Hindus give credit to these Africans for starting their religious concept, the Bhagavad Gita, but yet make them untouchables, the lowest thing. You could kill one of these in spite of the law of it, quote unquote untouchable, because his shadow pass on you, not him. He don't touch you. His shadow pass you. His shadow even pass on top of your shadow, and you could kill him. There's a law against it legally, but it's not carried out. Nobody's punished for doing it. All right. What happened in that area, in spite of the fact that the influence of these people made the current religion as well as a religion in the past, is that they were strangers. When they came in there and settled down and didn't go outside, they became outsiders living in the inside. And that relationship proliferated itself because in the Hindu religion, you have so much stage, I think it's 47, I could be wrong there with the exact amount, but you have 47 layers of Hindus, much less when you come to other people. 47 layers. You could call yourself a Hindu, but you may be a 47th rank down at the bottom, with the Brahmin and the top up here.
Which means you're on the bottom.
Oh, you're bad. 47 people on top of you. You know what? How you feel if you were the 47th?
Dr. Ben, let's take a quick break and set up for our phones. You can join us in conversation at 523-8989 if you have a question or a comment for Dr. Josef ben-Jochannan. Now, I want to do a little, how do you say, let's put a little restriction. One question or one comment, because we want to have as many people that want to ask a question or comment to hear Dr. Ben respond. So please, turn your radios down when you speak with us. We're going to get set up and bring Dr. Ben on the telephone with you. Again, our phone number is 523-8989, 523-8989. Radio Free Griot celebrating African History Month. Comment for Dr. Josef ben-Jochannan. It's getting late, and I know the brother has had a long day, but we want to add you into this discussion. Okay, here we go. Hello, caller, you're on the air with Dr. Ben. Question or comment? Yes, sir.
Well, surely they remembered, excuse me, that what happened in 1884 wasn't the beginning of it. They had been fighting the Europeans from 1830, had started the conquest of Africa when France invaded Ceuta. That was 1830. They continued to probe and continue to exploit the Africans with the better military weapons and cut up Africa into a jigsaw puzzle. Germany was at the time fighting France for Alsace-Lorraine. So when the war was finished there and Germany came in to get her portion of the booty of African people and land, there was no way for her to go, so Germany started taking away her fellow European land that they had taken away from the Africans. That caused all these Europeans to call a conference. Conference was called the Berlin Conference in 1884. I think that's what you're speaking about, where the 12 European colonial nations, Great Britain and the United States of America, participated in this Berlin Conference. At that conference, they give Leopold a portion of land called Manicongo, or the Congo Free State. That portion of land, after they had given it to Leopold, they found out that they had given the richest part of Africa at that time to Leopold as his personal estate. That caused another conference. The Bordeaux Conference initiated what is called the Brussels Conference. That's where Leopold came to complain that France, England, and Germany were encroaching on her territory and his territory. And that was the two conferences that you're trying. Out of that, of course, came the League of Nations with Woodrow Wilson, where he adopted all of the material. He stole all the material from the Berlin and Brussels Conference.
Okay, now let me take this next call, Dr. Ben, and I hope that answered your question out there, caller. Hello, caller, you're on the air with Dr. Josef ben-Jochannan. Question or comment? So my brother Bomani, you talking about me, brother? Well, when we go off the air, call me back and I'll give you a number where you can reach me. I can't give that over the phone, over the air right now. Hey, Gideon, how are you, brother? Shalom.
Now, how are you going to be a Jew and be a Christian simultaneously? But the Jews don't have a Christ. The Christians have a Christ. No, if you're a Jew, you can't have a Christ. I don't care how you can pray it. Then you're no longer a Jew if you have a Christ. Muhammad is in bad shape. If he got a Christ, and if he got a Christ, then he can't be a Jew. Jews are waiting for the Jews are waiting for a Messiah. My brother.
Wait, Gideon.
My brother.
Gideon, let Dr. Ben respond.
My brother. The book of Isaiah is the book in the Hebrew document that speak of the possibility of a Messiah coming. And Isaiah described how the Messiah would come. He would come down in a bolt of lightning. The sky would open up. When Mary gave birth to the baby, did you see any bolt of lightning and in the sky like that? The only thing that opened up was her vagina.
Oh,
God. But if you eating pork chops and call it beef, it doesn't become beef. It's still pork chops. But don't talk about, that's my people. I came out of the...
Wait, Gideon.
Wait.
Gideon, wait. This brother wants to tell you.
I came out, I am a better Israel. Falasha is a curse word. I think you need to study this thing. Falasha is a word in Amharic, which means stranger, don't touch me, or funny people.
Wait, brother Gideon, let Dr. Ben...
I got to tell you what they call my people, and what they call me.
He's from
I was born in this.
So, wait, please let the brother respond.
You see, I was born in this. I'm not adopting it. Now, this is an Amharic word, which is a curse word. We don't accept the term. That's what the Amharic Christian call us. It is as me coming up and calling you a nigger. Is no difference. Okay? Now, like some African people accept the term Negro. That don't mean they're Negroes. That's what the Portuguese put on them. Now, you're talking about a people. You can't show me a single Hebrew who have any records of Judaism before 700 BC. Do you have any? But how could you say that there were no Israelites when Moses is supposed to have been there? Remember that Moses is supposed to marry. I think somebody got a book that's not dealing with fact. Moses, wait now. Moses, how are you going to have an Israelite nation started with Moses? Moses have never been to a place called Israel. Moses disappeared.
Brother Gideon.
Brother Gideon, I think a course on and Judaism will help, because you don't have Moses before 1346, before the 18th dynasty in Egypt, right? If you don't have Moses is a allegorical character in the first place. There is no record of a Moses any place in Egypt. Have you been to Egypt? Wait, I just asking. What are you talking about? There's no record of a Jew.
Gideon, you're talking, you make a comment like that, let Dr. Ben respond, okay? And then this is going to be the last comment, we got to move along.
Brother Gideon, regardless of what you call yourself, I think you are a brother. All right. Wait now. You practice Judaism, but Judaism is not a race. Judaism is a religion. They know Jewish look. You don't look Jewish. They know such thing. All right. Now, okay. Now you practice the religion, and religion is the glorification of a culture. True? Okay. Now, what record can you show me in Egypt of a person named Moses, Abraham, Joseph? Name me the prime minister. What? Show me the record in Egypt where there was a prime minister named Potiphar. What Holy Bible? What do you mean by that? I said Egyptian record. Wait, my brother, don't try to preach to me. Let's discuss. What record, Egyptian record, do you have? See? No,
brother, I'm gonna have to cut you off, Brother Gideon, and let Dr.
Because the brother procrastinating. I asked him what Egyptian documents that he know. Speaking of a Moses, the brother can't speak of not telling about the Holy Bible. The Holy Bible he's talking about didn't come by itself. It came out of the Kabbalah. And if he practiced Judaism the same, it came out of the Kabbalah. It had that beginning. Secondly, it was not published until, at best, from the Sanhedrin, and that wasn't until about 700 BC. And I want him to tell me and show me any record of a Jew or an Israelite or anything like that in Egypt. I want him to show me record with a person named Moses in the city of Goshen where he's supposed to be born. Where in Egypt can I find those documents? I don't want allegorical things. Our religion's got allegorical. Our religion is good and bad. They're all based upon wishful thinking.
This is WRFG Atlanta, by the way. We're speaking with Dr. Josef ben-Jochannan, and my name is Bomani Bakari, and of course the program is indeed Round Midnight. Hello, calling you on the air live with Dr. Ben. Question or comment?
I think Captain Luger, who is the one who was brought from India to South Africa, and from South Africa to West Africa. He is the one whose girlfriend, Mary Shaw, give him the name of Nigeria by saying, you're always talking about this great river, Niger, and you want to name these two lands that you captured, why not call them Nigeria? And that's how they get the name. She was a writer for the London Times. So Lord Lugard, that you speaking about, was Captain Lugard, who had murdered hundreds of thousands of Indians, South Africans, and West Africans. But he didn't have nothing at all to do with Ethiopia.
Mm-hmm. Does that answer your question, brother? Thank you. And just in the meantime, between calls, Dr. Ben, I wanted to clarify, the Muslims think I'm Muslim, the Hebrews think I'm Jewish. I'm an African, brother.
That's what comes first and last.
First and last.
I am an African woman.
Right. So we're not going to get into divisions.
My religion is worshiping black women.
Mine too, brother.
All right.
Hello, caller, you're on the air live with WRFG. Question or comment for Dr. Ben? Yes, sir. How are you this evening? Hotel? Yes, sir.
Leo Africanus was Ati Akbar. Atta. Ati Atta, not having nothing to do with the Muslims. And he converted to Roman Christianity. Pope Leo, that's how he got the name of Leo. Africanus, Leo is the name of this Roman Pope, Pope of the Roman Catholic Church, Pope Leo. Africanus, of course, tells itself, and the words Leo the African. It can't have nothing at all to do with the name of Africa when you got literature about Africa from the time of the Greeks and Romans. For instance, Afar. The Romans call anybody from Africa Afar, A-F-E-R, and the Greeks call them Africanus. So when you speak of Cletus Niger, when you speak of Nefer and all these other names that the Romans use, there was no Pope in the Roman Church. There was no Roman Church. There was no Christianity. You can't have a Pope before Christ. Huh? Jesus was not a follower of himself. When people use this thing about Leo Africanus to give the name to Africa, they're not even thinking. You can't have the head and the shoulder. It's someplace, but you know the shoulder.
Let's take this call, Dr. Ben. Hello, caller. You're on the air live with Dr. Josef ben-Jochannan. Question or comment? Fine, sir, and yourself.
Yes, my brother, let me start off with a few little basic things to put you on why you could answer yourself. There are certain fundamentals we were taught. One, the lion is the king of the jungle. You and I were taught that. Children today are taught that. That's a fundamental lie. Lions don't live in jungle, number one, because they're a prairie animal. If that lion go in the jungle half an hour, he'd be a dead lion. If a lion messed with an elephant, he could forget it and start saying prayers for the next life. Or a crocodile, or a rhinoceros. I mean, I could name so many animals that a lion better not even walk across. Then you take these things. You look at that, and then you start to deal with the facts of where do the premises of the truth come from. What is the facts? What is our point of reference, brother? Then if your point of reference for yourself comes from your slave master, or what the slave master analysis of you, okay? Then you have to ask yourself, why is the slave master's facts my facts? Malcolm said it best. When the slave get to the point of saying, are we sick boss? The slave is the only one sick. Right. Even though the man is dying. That man is having a physical attack and about to croak. The slave got a mental. He's been dead long before the man. See, the slave been dead for years and don't know he's dead. Now, you see me, brother? Now put your question, now with that background, put your question back to me and see if you don't have the answer. Yes. Yes. But the Greek, the most degenerate organization is the Greek fraternities and sororities in respect to us. And it came from a point when African people in the West didn't know about Egypt, didn't associate with Egypt, Ethiopia, and so forth. African people didn't know that Egypt was part of Africa, and many of them still don't know. African people who don't know Ethiopia is part of Africa. We had been given a bill of goods that only West Africa belonged to us. And you got professors in colleges right here in all the colleges in the Atlanta complex who believe up to today that only West Africa we should talk about, because the rest of Africa don't belong to us. You don't hear no European talking, only France we should talk about, only Germany we should talk about. They talk about the whole thing. I mean, the history of Europe, bad or good as it is, belongs to all Europeans. The history of any part of Asia belongs to all Asians. And the history of Africa belongs to no Africans. You figure that out now. So I know what you're talking about, and I agree with you, because I'll give you another concrete way. This is taught in every black school. In the oldest profession in the world is prostitution. That don't go for Africa. The oldest profession in the world for crackers and peckerwoods is prostitution. They women were going around opening their guts for any man for a fish. They had the problem of digging in a hole and can't get but one half a fish to support all of them. How is the African woman going to be a prostitute when she cannot live by herself? There is no African society that allow single woman living. How is she got prostitution and she's connected to an extended family? How is she got I could go down the line, brother. When her husband died, she got to go back home to her family, or to his family, or live with her oldest son, or her uncle. She can't live by herself. How is she going to practice? How are you going to get the oldest? Everything the European does, even going to bed with goats and sheep, got to be, we had to do it too. Does you remember that? Yes, sir. And you're not going to stop. You're not going to stop it. You're not going to get rid of the fraternities. Some brothers and sisters are going to have to start their own African stuff. Like some brothers here in Morehouse have started. Some brothers in the east, the north, have an organization, a fraternity based in Malcolm and other things like that. And that's going to do it, because you're not going to stop it. What you got to do is to get there and mold the brothers, as many as you could, and sisters, towards an African one perspective, and maybe some would do it. It's a long-term fight, because just like the cotillion, how many white people still got cotillion? Black people got cotillion. Don't understand what it is about. It is putting your daughter on the block and saying she's ready to be ripped up by some man who got the best price. You know, my daughter is now ready to be ravaged by a man with the biggest price. That's what the cotillion is. But who doing it? We doing it. We still got cotillion. We got any decadent thing that European society pass off and will leave it. Oh, we would have a pretty black woman in the house looking like, oh God. You know what I mean? I can't say the rest, because by the time you look at the sister, she looks so good that by the time you got the guard out, you got her in your hand. You don't have time to say nothing else. And we will leave her and get any stringy looking thing. You know, as long as white is right, it's mine, it's nice. You know what I mean? So, and you know what I'm talking, brother. Yeah. Yes, brother. And knowledge is fearful. See, now the power isn't, the power in knowledge isn't a gun. The power in knowledge isn't a gun. It moves your brain from 0, 0, -0. And the knowledge move that needle in your brain, that register, from minus to plus. That's all it's supposed to do. If we cannot sit down and wait for knowledge to go and do the work. You see, if I write a book, you read the book, that book gonna either make you move, at least mentally or physically. That book get you angry. That book make you love yourself or hate yourself. Knowledge is power in the sense, not in the sense that you take knowledge, put it down in that place and say, no knowledge, go bring me some food. Knowledge ain't going nowhere, you're going to starve to death. But knowledge will help you to make the food.
Okay. Brother, we need to move along. Thank you for the call, brother.
Thank you, brother.
All right, brother, thanks again now. All right, Hotep. Now, you just touched on a few things that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to ask you, and we touched on it very, very briefly. Oh my God, we're running out of time with Dr. Ben here, but I wanted to, as again mentioned, you touched on it briefly, but what's the state of the so-called black colleges in America? We still have this term, the United Negro College Fund.
They are Negroes.
Well, dig it, brother, but then again, we got the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People.
They're still colored.
When will we get the United African College Fund and the National Association for the Advancement of African People? When can we demand of these organizations?
When we stop letting white folks sit on our boards of directors, when we decide to stop spending so much money for liquor, for alcohol, and use a bit of it. You see, we are not going to ever do anything unless we put priority. That the priority in our money should be for the education of our children, that we should dominate what our children going to use, the objective of the education, and until such time as we're willing to spend our money for the things we need rather than the things we want, it's going to be the same. But as long as the college right here in Atlanta, Georgia, going to look to the European for everything it needs, it's going to have only courses approved by Europeans, then we can't go beyond that. Any people within a culture that doesn't have its own value of culture will be slaves until they die.
Now let's turn our focus to some contemporary issues. The dope dealer Bush has coined the phrase "there's going to be a new world order." In your opinion, what does the new world order actually mean?
It started the ability to go into another man's country, drag the president off the seat, tell him that he got to stand trial in under your laws. The next thing, to be able to invade any little country, even the United States invading Grenada. Grenada is not big as the biggest park in Atlanta, and don't have half the amount of people there any one day, and got a battleship, a little rowboat, and 2 paddle. You understand? And got an Air Force, a balloon, a kite. Get there. That's the Grenada Army, Air Force, and everything. And you invade that because you're scared of communism.
But why don't they invade Russia?
No, it's part of the New World Order. You see, capitalism and communism are now lying in bed, and communism got pregnant from capitalism. See? And all the little babies, the offspring, what they call the bastard children, are breaking away. These are the little Asian ones, that the mama has been raped. Mother Asia has been raped. And now the new order said, we want a pure European order. You see, but of course they have the Arab appendages for 9 billion, this one for 15 billion, and this, you see what they've doled out the money. And Mother Japan is bringing a few more billions. You get what I mean?
Yes, sir.
So the New World Order, even they may have Japan because Japan is already honorary white. South Africa made them honorary white. But the little brown people will get kicked in the behind again, and then they'll have to, they're going to remember to use the secret atomic bomb. You know, the Japanese is dealing with them wisely. Man, Japan is kicking behind. They don't buy up the Rockefellers. They're going to buy the White House right from in the bush.
And I think
if they haven't bought it yet.
I think that's the revenge of the Japanese people for the Americans dropping the bomb.
But they're paying for it.
They're paying for it.
That's right. The Japanese going to soon, you better start practicing Japanese. Because you will need it. You understand?
Now, Dr. Ben, we are definitely running out of time. What is the name of your new book, sir, and when is it going to be out? Or is it out already?
No, it will be about 800 pages. It has 500 odd illustration. It should be out, we hope it's going to be out for August because of the African festival we're going to have in Egypt, endorsed by the Egyptian government. By the way, they should see the statement of Egypt. Egypt is no longer the United Arab Republic. It is Egypt, Africa. And the president said Egypt is an African country of an African culture. The Minister of Culture, I'm on a tape with him, and February 12th at the press conference, you will see the Minister of Culture, myself speaking, and he's saying that Egypt is an African culture. That's going to make a lot of diarrhea in these colleges. I mean, some of these professors are going to die.
Dr. Ben, we're going to take this very last call before we have to let you go. Caller, this is the last call, whoever you are. Hello, caller, you're on the air with Dr. Josef ben-Jochannan. Question or comment?
What's up, my brother? The flood. Now, you got to remember, when people say flood, first of all, let's understand, we are at a radio station, and you're in Atlanta. Do you know any record about Atlanta flooding? Nobody know it, right? All right. What is the Jewish state at the time of this supposed flood? Do the Jews in that time know Spain? Let's take. Would they know the terrain at Spain? Do they know the terrain at Russia? The Jews knew the terrain of China. Did they know Uganda? The Jewish world wasn't even a good 1,000 miles radius. So we got to understand, the Tigris and the Euphrates overflowed the bank, drowned a few Jews. It's just like the hen and chicken licking when the acorn fell on head. Hell, if you're a hen and an acorn fell on your head, the sky fall. If you're a Jew in a little orbit and the rain come heavy, it got a major flood. The whole world got flooded. But what people think the world, including America, the world, man, hell, Australia wasn't in that world. See, the Jewish world got flooded, yes. And they come up with a big allegory behind that, creating all kind of things, but a bunch of lies. There's no way to tell it. Because if you can't start dealing with it and nobody backing off, then you know it was intended to be a lie, and it gets bigger, the lie gets bigger and bigger, because we who are trapped in it can't escape and get out of this thing. We can't do no reasoning, we can't do no thinking because of this trap. And it's just that being and welfare. And the man said, look, if you work, we're going to cut you off. If you don't work, we're going to cut you off. But if you prostitute yourself, we let you keep you. But we're going to just give you enough to let you live, so your children can't be educated and nothing like that to pull you out of this thing. So it's trap. The big trap is that it's not the question of genocide, about the thing about a woman, an African woman started polygamy. I don't know who started polygamy, if it was a woman or a man or a sandwich. I know that polygamy is the relationship with a man with a multiple team of women as his spouse. monogamy is a man with one woman, and that's rare. Yes, and we're going to say most American men practice polygamy. The only thing is that you don't have a license. But that don't mean you don't practice polygamy. If you're talking about legal polygamy and illegal polygamy, okay, but it's still polygamy. Polyandry is where a woman got more than one man, that simultaneously. Now, dealing with all of these, each of them is good, depending on what the two individuals want. You see, I see nothing wrong with men and women getting together on any moral basis that they establish and want to live by. That works best for them. I may like monogamy, I may like polygamy. That's what I like. Now when I got a woman that like what I like, I don't care what you don't like.
That answers the question, I gather, brother. Okay, brother, we need to move along. Hotep, my brother, thank you for calling. Dr. Ben, we are running out of time, but I wanted to ask you about Ralph Shorman. Are you familiar with this Jewish fellow? He lectures and has written extensively on the hidden history of Zionism. He equates Zionism with racism. He gives a whole, which is surprising for you.
It is.
But again, what about this black-Jewish relationship that we're supposed to have, and how can...
Let the brother just talking so much about his Judaism go to Israel. My people are not considered, let's quote unquote, the niggers of Israel. They're now called. They had a thing when we were going there, trickling, there was black bread for black Jews. I gave up Judaism. I had to give it up because of reality. Judaism is run right now by European racists and religious bigots. Okay?
Okay.
Zionism is another word, another mythological word for Semitism. How could a man named Noah, after a flood, and everybody died except his family? Let's get now. Mr. and Mrs. Noah. They're not a technicolor or rainbow family. Right? They're supposed to be of a color. The black if a black man speaking about it, the white if a white man speaking about it. The yellow if a Chinese speaking about it. But now, one of his sons looked at his father after the flood, and they came off the boat, this ark. Listen to this, he plant vine in the morning and harvest wine that same night. Right? Atomic Sneaky Pete.
Atomic Sneaky Pete.
Now, his son looked at him because he fell down from all that powerful wine, got his genitals exposed. His son is a faggot. His son looked at him. He ain't looking at his mama. He gonna look at his father, got the same thing he got, and stare. His other two sons gonna see it. They gonna take a blanket, walk backwards, and cover up their daddy. How the hell they gonna find the daddy? And they go do a somersault backwards to lay this thing on the... Okay, it no sense to go through this. It's crazy.
Right.
Now, the daddy gonna get up and curse the boy, and that gonna turn him back. Now, what color was Mr. and Mrs. Noah? Well, I said Mr. and Mrs. because I don't want them shacking up in the boat.
Right.
All right, now. Man, it's a joke, ain't it?
Ain't it, brother?
All right. Then all the people of the world gonna come from this. The black people, white people, brown people, all different people come from this. But they only got 3 sons: Ham, Japheth, and Shem. Right?
Right.
They only talk about Ham and Shem. Japheth, they put him in the back row. A goat must have been his daddy messing with Mrs. Noah. So they isolate Japheth. They don't hear nobody. Japhethites. No Japhethites left. They only got Hamites and Shemites, Tomites, and all the things. You understand? Yeah, man. Look, this thing is a joke. And you only don't see it if you don't think. All right. Then come this curse. One of the children of Ham is Canaan. Right?
Right.
But the Jews gonna come later and invade Canaan, their cursed cousin land, and took it away. Get what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir.
But God gave them that land. God said, come here, take your cousin land, kill off. You see, people don't like to talk. The Jews gonna be the first to commit a Holocaust, mass genocide. They went and killed 7 nations of people. I read it from the Bible. The brother should know it. Tell the brother that the Jews committed the first known written genocide in the world. They killed the Amalekites, the Moabites, the Jebusites, the Perizzites, and all Amites they had. Every last one, to the last man, woman, and children. And then, when they went to the king to report that they had successful, the king said, "There's nothing moving. Yeah, the dogs and the cats are, go back and kill them. They are genocides." Man, don't tell me this junk book. You got to be willing to read it, and it's because they're attached. If the fear concept, you fly into the face of God. You got to be fearful. This is the word of God. It's not the word of no damn God. It is the word of men. And some of them were prostitutes, some of them were thieves, cutthroats, and everything else. And some were good men.
Dr. Josef ben-Jochannan, we have gotten a high sign. We have to let you go, sir. I could ask you 1,000,001 questions. I know the family out there could ask you 1,000,001 as well. But, sir, we'd like to again thank you, our elder, our teacher, our master, for coming out and enlightening us and sharing time with us. Thank you for coming to Atlanta. Please come back again. You know you always have some space here on these airwaves. You know they took Bob Law off the air down here, Dr. Ben.
I heard, brother.
About 4 or 5 years ago.
I heard.
So as brother was saying, information is precious. And they don't want us. And they don't want us to get this kind of information.
These are weapons.
Exactly.
These are weapons.
But how do we begin the payback? What's the necessary ingredient for the big payback?
Fight and continue fighting. The struggle continues. It goes on and go on. The big payback, the biggest payback, is to get a black woman and love her.
Oh, yeah.
Show the man you don't want him nor his woman.
That's right.
You see, the man got no problem with me, with this man. Because when I come, I get me something black. And sometimes I go out and get a blacker woman than I got just to have a black woman. Man, you could see black brothers get mad. We going with a black woman. But I remember the thing, man, the blacker the meat, the sweeter the gravy.
Yes, sir.
So when you get that black woman, the first thing that's going to disarm him, when you show him you love your woman.
Right.
You love your mama.
Right.
And I don't mean in a Freudian sense. You love that black sister. And you not and then another thing, you see, me, man, I boast. I spend my money on my black woman. I make that woman look like she coming out of heaven, and she's heaven.
Right.
Show the brother that black woman's womb is heaven. That's the only heaven. And that little baby coming out, and they come out of heaven. Little gods and goddesses come out of that. And when he know that he can't break up that team, you see, that's the whole team. When I got my team together,
That's right.
my woman, my children, and me, that's the team.
Yes, sir.
Then I go and worship. I call the sun. I said, "Sun, up there, you shining. I ain't got no control over you. You got the effect on me, but shine down on this pretty black thing.
Yes, sir.
Let me worship it."
Yes, sir.
I kiss my woman hand. I be careful what I kiss now. Kiss woman bottom of the foot. You understand? Right, sister? And I get there and I said, "Baby, oh baby." See, get drunk with black woman. I get drunk. I go on a high. See, I never drink drug. As long as they're black woman, I ain't gonna mess with no drug because I'm high enough when the black sister touch me.
Dr. Josef ben-Jochannan, teach on, brother. Stay strong.